All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for real people, just like you right there, just like me right here, and just like my buddy Steve Raz, guitarist extraordinaire for the Journey tribute band Escape. Steve, how are you, my friend? How are you?
I am doing as good as you can be in Cleveland, Ohio. Usually it is cloudy in Cleveland, but it's cloudy today. But not too bad. It's like 70 degrees. I would take it. But hang
Sounds
in.
good. So
Thanks.
I'm sure my viewers here want to know how long you've been doing this for. Tell us about Escape. Tell us the whole all of it. Like, let's start here. What's the biggest crowd you've ever played in front of with Escape?
Last year they said it was 11,000. It was in Menor, which is my hometown, or not my hometown. It's where I live right now. And it was played as City Fest. Actually, and then it was cool is the day before we played on the other side of Cleveland, on the west side, at a place called Rockin' on the River that has a big concert series. And they said 10,000. We close to set the record there. So it was 10,000 on Friday and then 11,000 Friday, which again, 5 years ago, I always thought I would maybe do something like this, but it's nothing like playing for the big. I mean, it's awesome.
All right, so 11,000. So again, I just want to put this out there to originally I when I first started talking about you guys, not that I got a lot of negative feedback or anything, but I used to hear things like a tribute band. Really, you're talking about a tribute band? And I'm like, hey, if you can't afford to go see, the mothership, as Neil Sean likes to call it, and say they're out of commission, like they're going to be off this entire summer, unfortunately, because of the whole COVID thing. And they were scheduled to play some gigs with the Pretenders, which would, honestly, I think I would have liked to have seen that. That's kind of an interesting sort of double bill. But, you guys fill a void nicely. Tell us, in your estimation, why do you think your band is so successful?
Jason. Jason. I mean,
who's Jason? You're talking about your lead singer,
Jason Kelty, and here's the thing, and you've gone over it too. You cannot replace Steve Perry. Nobody can ever replace Steve Perry. But Jason comes pretty close, and I should probably talk quite a bit about him. And I mean, like I said, it's a pretty neat story how I met him and how he helped me and I helped him in one way, in a couple ways. And so, if you wanted, I could start from that if you want. But Jason,
yeah, I mean, we might want the Cliff Notes version because I think you and I are going to go for probably 90 minutes here, and as much the details are awesome. I know some of them, but for our audience, like, tell us let's go back to when the band kind of all came together. Like, I know Escape was around before you, right? And you joined later. Is that how it worked out?
Jason started in '93, kept it going, and that's where and I think he might have taken a little bit of a hiatus. He had a few different lineups in the '90s. Took a hiatus for a few years. I don't remember, 6-7 years or something. Reformed it in the early 2010 or 12 or something like that. Yeah. And then just had some guys that were great players that ended up in 2015, kind of had some band drama, and Jason, they weren't playing that many shows too. Here's the funny story. The guys who were in the band before us didn't know how to use really social media. So when Jason was reforming the band, I met him in 2014, 15. I wanted to get back into playing live. My kids were getting older, and I had gotten out of it for a while. And so I started going to a jam night, and every week, and I was just saying, I'm going to meet somebody. I need to get in a band. I couldn't find a band for a couple of years, and I met Jason, and that's how we met. But at the time, he was still in Escape. They were playing 6 shows a year. And I saw him play a couple times with them, but they just didn't book too many shows. And then he had a falling out with some of the guys there. He was also in a band with a couple of the other guys in a Jukebox Heroes. It's an 80s band that he does. And again, there's more drama there, and it was pretty ugly actually. And so I was reforming a band called forming a band with my friend Carmen called Rubik's Cube. And I asked Jason, hey, because he was having trouble with the other bands, I said, hey, you want to join our little 80s band? He started playing some shows. I asked him to join the band. It was great because he's awesome. Like I said, he plays everything. Well, I'll get into that because you guys need to know about that. Jason is just an incredible musician at all. And then he asked me to join Jukebox Heroes. And then at that time, he reformed Escape, and he asked me to join with Mike Nelson and Troy and Paul, and he reformed it. He split with all the other guys. And
right.
And then at that time when we started, once we started playing some shows, and the first couple shows, especially that I had, was a train wreck, because learning 28 Neil Schon songs, and then playing it in front of people, I was nervous and it was a mess. But anyway, I finally just practiced, and we all, it got better. Once we started we did a couple shows, and actually the one video of Jason doing Foolish Heart that I filmed on stage, that actually you'd helped a lot at those early stages too. I remember, and we started putting the videos out when we reformed the band. We started putting the videos on, and I remember Jason telling me at the very beginning, we don't use Facebook. And I'm like, oh, well, you are now. You're going to start using Facebook now. So we started doing that. We got the page. We started sharing the videos, and that's when it exploded. So we had like 33 or 34 shows booked in the beginning of this year, and there were still more that were coming. So, so that's, and then, like I said, just since then, it's just, and here's the other thing. Now that we're in the 5th year, like, dude, even the show that you came to see me, it was maybe our 2nd year. And again, you were there, you had been talking up the band. I'll never forget it, because it was probably my 2nd worst show that I've played ever, because you're sitting there and I'm nervous to begin with. It was my 2nd year. If you've never been in a band like this, playing in front of people, because I never did before I was in this band.
Yeah.
And you have to play these songs and if you think about playing Neil's solos playing 20 for 2 hours, sometimes we play for even more than that. You play 30,000, 40,000, I don't even know how many notes in all these solos. If you're 1 fret off on one song, it sounds like horrible, And I remember I screwed up a bunch with you, and I was like, oh, then it just made me nervous. And so again, playing and repeating stuff over and over again, getting through those first couple years. And now once you play it a bunch of times, because when you first learn a song and you're in a band, you're playing it and you're thinking. When you play it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, then it's just, you play it and it's automatic. So it's all now, because all that other stuff is there. And gosh, I still make mistakes. Like I said, I think Neil's stuff is the hardest stuff. But again, you're 1 note off, or you bend a note, and you bend it a little too much or too little, and man, you got to be really on the ball. So
wow. The weirdest part of that story was how I made you nervous. So,
oh, God. Dude, I was nervous.
We're friends. I mean, I was very fortunate. You guys, full disclosure, the reason I was able to go to the show is because you guys basically paid my way up there, and I was stunned that somebody wanted to go that far to have me attend one of their concerts. And go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. Sorry. That was a great weekend, dude.
Yeah, we had a blast. And, people from Ohio, very nice, very laid back, different, you travel in different places in the country and probably around the world, and you're going to meet people who have a certain vibe about them. And you guys were all just so nice and respectful, and it was kind of like going back to a throwback to my childhood where everybody was just much more cordial. Florida is a different pace down here. It's got its own thing going on. I guess it depends on which part of the state you go to, like anywhere else. But I had a great time there, and I was completely. When Jason started to sing, my mouth. I mean, people around me who were with me.
I remember that so well, because you were just like, I remember that. And then I think I was probably watching your thing and just not noticing my guitar.
No. The guy just had it was so close. It was so darn close to what I had grown up listening to that I just started. I mean, I was walking around the place trying to get like different angles,
Yeah.
different perspectives. I'm thinking, nah, he's not going to do this on every song. It's going to be the good songs and bad songs, like any group, any. I mean, this is a tough thing to do. You mentioned, trying to emulate Neil Schon and his playing, which again, it's in a different category. I had this conversation with a gentleman who I've been doing some videos with, a guy from Dublin who's he's really great, and we've had some great discussions about Neil and about just the level of musicianship, and and now they got this new rhythm section in the band, which I'm blown away by their choices because number one, Randy Jackson is back, and he is as badass of a bass player as you can get. And then you've got this guy who is like a musical genius who's playing drums now. So I mean, and his drumming, his keyboard playing, his production. This was not a choice I expected, to be honest with you. I thought they were going to go Nashville. They're going to go on the cheap. They're just going to get replacements.
I thought they would get somebody that, and again, save the money and get somebody who's really good that might not, like I said, that's what I thought. And too, I thought maybe they would just, again, because there's a lot of bands who are out there who, you got the three members of the band and they'll hire a bass player just to save, like I said, save money. But that was, I caught me by surprise. And that guy, both those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, so you guys, and one thing about Escape now for what, you said 5 years, right? You've been doing this?
Yeah, it's the fifth.
You have yet to fire your rhythm section.
Oh, dude, I got to tell you about this, the guys in the band. And again, I mentioned Jason is the reason why that we're, but you got to also too, everybody is awesome in the band. Paul on the bass, you got Troy on the keyboards, and last but not least, my pal, Mike. I know my pals, but Mike lives very close to me, and we're probably the closest. We just pal around.
Now, what he told a story when I was up there. Was it? And when I say the band's name, I feel like I'm swearing. But was it Buck Cherry, who he had a gig with?
Mike almost had a gig. Mike's brother, which probably a lot of people don't know, Mike's brother Ken Nelson was the original one of the founding members of Buck Cherry. He's not in the band anymore, but he wrote most of their hit songs, and they kind of had a little bit of a falling out, but right now. But his brother, it was, and he was going to practice for a show. I guess the drummer, maybe 10 years, 12 years ago, I don't know when it was, couldn't make it, or was sick or something, and Mike practiced for the show, was going to play Madison Square Garden with them and fill in, and it turns out the guy ended up doing it at the last minute. Mike didn't get to Mike didn't play, but again,
their loss though was your gain because he's a beast.
Oh man, he is. Mike was, like I said, he's awesome. And the thing about everybody, we get along awesome. I mean, we get along awesome. We have fun. When we're on stage, you can tell. And the best part about this for all the other guys is when Jason joined the band, he had so many. The guys in the band his old band treated him bad. I mean, it was rough. And I don't want to get into all the details, but when we started and things started going good, it was great for everybody. It was great for him. Getting respect, and I tell you. But yeah, that was one of the things too. And so, but as a group, the guys are all awesome musicians, and we have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, again, when you watch your favorite bands, and one of the reasons I have viewers is because there's always something going on. There's always some kind of drama going on. And at a certain point, you would just think to yourself, we're all human beings. It'd be great if we could just kind of put these differences, aside and get out there and do it for the fans. I mean, it's a very lucrative job, obviously. I mean, there are millions of dollars to be had if you're at the level where Journey is and other bands. And it's tempting, to be this way because you get so much material wealth and your lifestyle changes, and you figure, hey, I'm a little better than these other guys. I mean, I've met all types so far. I mean, I've met guys that are really humble. I've met guys and gals who are a little harder to, because they feel, I think they insulate themselves and they feel like they can't really talk the way you and I are having conversation. And I don't know. I mean, when you find out, you meet your hero and your hero lets you down, it's one of those things where you go, wow, that guy, I've been buying their records and going to shows, and now, you know, but with you guys, there's no pretense. I mean, there's nothing that you guys are trying to prove other than the fact that you can replicate this music really well, which you do, and you have a loyal fan base. Tell us a little bit about, now you play mostly in Ohio, but you've got gigs, or you've done some gigs outside the state. Are you planning, where are you planning to go this year? Is it mostly in Ohio?
Mostly in Ohio for now. Again, when we get contacted by people, is when we go out of state. But we're slowly, you know, the states that are around us. Indiana, we played some Pennsylvania shows. Indiana, we have had a Missouri show where it was a private. We get contacted by some people all over the place. We did. It's going back to your thing. Is Dave, we have a lot in common because I used to work at WMMS Radio back in 1987, and I met all kinds of people. Eddie Van Halen, met him. It was great because he was awesome. It was cool.
Yeah.
We both met people like that, and just like what you're saying, there's some people. If you ever meet John Bon Jovi, do not ask him if he is going to play "She Don't Know Me" before his show. You'll find out later, like I did. I had no idea he never wrote that song, but
right.
I asked him, I love that song. Hey, you didn't play "She Don't Know Me"? He's like, I hate that song. He hated me. It was so funny because. But it was so funny because you had interactions. I'm sure he's a good guy or whatever, but it was so funny. I asked him the wrong question, like a dummy. But anyway,
I've met him, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was probably I was just, my girlfriend at the time was like, you know, drooling. So I had a bib for her, and most of the conversation, believe it or not, was focused on why New England quarterback Doug Flutie was hanging out at the buffet and not coming over to say hello. It was John. I was talking to John, and they were both really nice to me, John and Richie Santoro. And the song that you mentioned is a song that was written by one of the guys in Donnie Iris's band.
Yeah, Mark Hansen.
Is actually one of my favorite John Bon Jovi songs, but you're right, he hates it because he didn't write it, and the song was kind of pushed on the band, and it became kind of a minor hit, especially on rock radio stations, played it a lot. And an even weirder fact about that song is the Grassroots actually did a version of that song on their very last album, 1982, which is a complete weird thing to hear Rob Grill, the guy who sang Temptation Eyes, singing that in the whole 80s with all the keyboards and everything. And it's actually a really good arrangement, and they were enthusiastic about doing it because they were trying to keep their career alive. But you're so funny that we had the experience with meeting John Bon Jovi. I never met Eddie Van Halen, never met any of the Van Halen boys. Sammy Hagar I did meet, so I can't say not met.
I was lucky. I had backstage passes like for when Van Halen did Monsters of Rock, and I worked at the station. I went with the engineer at 6 a.m, so it was with Scorpions, Dokken, I think it was Bon Jovi, and Van Halen. Back in Van Halen's dresser, talk with Alex and Eddie. Eddie was playing his red guitar with a little Marshall amp, and he goes, "You want to pick?" I'm like, "Yeah." And that was really awesome. But I want to get back to, because what you were saying about playing in other places. We played in Florida a couple years ago, opened for Cheap Trick, and it was through PPG. It was a corporate. PPG hired us, and we went down and opened for Cheap Trick, and we're in Florida. And we for 1 week, we got paid awesome, put up at a hotel for a week. And I'll never forget it, because here's what happened is after we did that, you know, and then opened it for Cheap Trick, the production was huge. It was, again, it was private deal. And Rick Nielsen canceled the day of the show, and he got sick, and his Robin Zander's son filled in.
Yeah.
So bummed out about that. But anyway, being there for a week and kind of being like a rock, again, we were all put up in $300-400 a night hotel in Epcot. And again, we had free food, beer. It was awesome. And then we opened for Cheap Trick. And I'll never forget, because I came home and I went back to my day job, and then I was thinking, you know, gosh, these guys who have been famous since the 70s or 80s, they get that, they've been having that life forever. And I was like, man, I don't ever want to hear anybody, any rock star, from, you know, and again, everybody has their things that go bad, but man, they got, again, at least with that, they got it. They got it pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this though, and not, I mean, I understand it's human nature though. I think when people have what they have a lot, they don't necessarily, they become less grateful over time. I think it's just kind of a, you know, it's some kind of law that operates. I will say this today, I feel a little sorry for some of these guys though, because, you know, all of their music revenue, their publishing revenue, there's no support system anymore for, you know, if Journey is going to record an album, and Neil, and I didn't cover this yet today, but Neil on Instagram put out a little video, and it was entitled "A Little Taste," and it's him just shredding, and Narada's in the room, and he's like, "This is going to be a different band because these guys are they want to be there." You know, no offense to my I don't want to say my friends, but the other guys who left the group. They seemed like they were mailing it in, to use a gentleman who was on my channel said, you know, they were there for a paycheck, and it kind of started to show a little bit. And nobody's going to say, oh, Steve Smith is a lousy drummer. That's not the issue. Steve Smith is a genius drummer, but does he want to be in this group, and is he enthusiastic about it? And I would say, yeah, he kind of wants to be in the group, but he's not really that enthusiastic about it. And I think the replacement guys are going to show, I think they're going to bring some new life. When Arnell came along, you know, over 10 years ago, he brought the whole audience that he's got, it's just, when I do videos about Arnell, I get even like Arnell woke up today, and I'll get like 10,000 views or something, because there's an audience for that guy overseas. Like, he's their hero. Like, the Philippines, all around the Pacific Rim, he is the man. He is the guy who conquered America. He went to America and became the singer in this incredible band. And so when you tear that guy down, look out, because he just ducks, because you're going to get stuff thrown at you. You know, nobody's Steve Perry, and I think his fans, I think, no, he knows it mostly, and that's why I'm cool with Arnell. I mean, I know there are concerts I've watched where I go, okay, Steve's not there, you know, or you know, but the thing is, it's the way he carries himself and his enthusiasm for the whole just being there. He's great. He's like you. He's grateful. He's like, I understand my place in this. And
well, think of it this way. If let's just say Eddie Van Halen left Van Halen or something, and you had, again, that would never, you know, nobody could replace him. Like I said, he never replaced the same thing with Neil. Like if I played or somebody who was in a tribute band got in that band, I wouldn't even want to do it. I would never want to do it, because it's just like, everybody's going to be, you know, you could, you know, there's some great players that would do it. The other thing I have to do, getting back, because I was thinking when you were talking about the new guys, Narada and Randy Jackson. But the other thing is, I think they're going to be into it too, is the songs, playing the Journey song. Let's go back to the songs. Mm-hmm. Every song, I mean, when we play those, it's like watching the people again, it's like, the repertoire. I mean, I can name off 25 to 30 songs for the average person would know, have heard them, and not even just Journey. Like, they've got 20 to 25 songs that most classic rock or people our age have heard almost all. And they're great songs, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping. Here's there's a battle that's going on as far as this music ages, and what happens is, what is out there, what people are hearing when they're driving around their cars on terrestrial radio, the playlist's getting narrower and narrower, and the Journey stuff is being pared down to, because what they're doing is, they're doing the same stuff that they did in the 60s and 70s with that music, is that they're looking at Billboard charts, and they're not, the rock radio format didn't exist in the 50s and 60s, and it started to happen, FM started to happen really in the 70s. That's really where it picked up steam. Bands like Chicago came along, and they were being played on FM radio initially, and not on AM radio. So you and I, when we're kind of like musicologists compared to a lot of people who go, oh yeah, I know that Separate Ways tune. Yeah, I know that Who's Crying Now. I've heard that a bunch of times, and that's a good song. But I mean, you guys, for instance, one of the songs you guys do, which I think is fascinating because it's a hard song to do, is People and Places, which you got to be kind of like a Journey junkie to understand, number one, how good that song is. Number two, the degree of difficulty involved with those vocals, especially, and the timing of the song and the way it goes down. Tell us about why you guys do that track, or do you know, what's the story? What's the backstory behind that?
We do it for the diehards. And the one thing with that song, we haven't been playing it as much the last couple years because it's funny because no matter how many times we could tell the sound man, and we have our main sound guy TC now, but a couple years ago we would have to use whoever was doing the sound most of the time, and we could give them a set list and tell them, hey, in this song, People and Places, the drummer's going to start out singing, and so when we played it, for some reason the first verse they didn't put Mike's vocals up well, so it was like every time we played it, we couldn't hear it. Everybody like, I can't hear, I can't. We'd be playing, and people would be like, I can't hear, because the soundmen, are so used to Jason singing every song. But again, that song and other songs that are not the hits are for the diehards. Okay, you guys, we need to do another diehard, and the latest one they want us to do is Suzanne. I know that's one that started, but that was one. Actually, I never heard of that. I never at that point. I don't remember hearing that song.
Top 40. It was like it might have hit like number 25 or something on the. It was like the third or fourth single from Raised on Radio, and again, I remember hearing it. It wasn't on the radio for the length of time that everything else was.
It was number 7 because when I told Paul, we were group messaging about the song, and I'm like, and I said, I never heard that song, and then he says it was number 7 and number 17. So that's where.
Okay. So he
remember other songs that album, and we do it for the diehards. The songs like People and Places.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. You have to kind of have that balance, because there's a group of people and you could see the reaction. Like when I went to see Journey in 2017, I think it was, or 2018. I can't remember what year it was. It was the Def Leppard tour. You can kind of gauge the reaction when they would start up a tune, and I'd be all like, yeah. And a lot of people are like, okay, this is a good time to hit the bathroom, I'm thinking, what are you doing? This is like but that's just me, in the fact that I grew up as a radio guy, and radio guys get bored because they're playing the same stuff all day long. And they're like, oh, I can't wait until they release a new single so I can start playing something different, because I'm hearing the song over and over again. I was on one of those stations that had a little bit of latitude. Like I could go into an album and tell my boss, I'm going to do 3 tracks, and these are the 3 tracks. I'm going to do the single, but I'm also going to do a couple of other tracks. And he'd be like, okay, yeah, whatever, as long as just know what you're doing and don't go overboard. But nowadays everything's very scripted, and then anything that's new. I mean, this is the sad thing, is it goes back to my original point about, not that I feel sorry for these guys. I mean, the older bands that can go out on tour, and that's another thing now with this whole little germ thing, I'll call it here. You can't do your live show, and you can't sell new music really, because someone's just going to stream it or pirate it. So I was listening to Dennis DeYoung talk about this a couple weeks ago on a radio show, and he's basically saying, look, I'm an old guy. No one's going to play and he's talking to a classic rock station. I loved his kind of like in your face, kind of like, yeah, you guys won't play my new stuff. That's basically what you're saying. You won't play my new stuff. It's a sad thing, really, because like if you are trying to say you're trying to do original music, and I know you guys you guys ever thought, that's a good question, you guys ever thought of making an original song that sounded like a Journey song?
Nope, can't get Jason to do it. He's and again, I didn't blame him, because he just, and that's the thing about, I've never really thought about it, but we're doing good, doing our little thing and our niche. And we had somebody approach us for a record label, a Christian label, which we're all Christian guys. And they wanted us to redo popular Christian songs and redo them and have a chance to put it on the radio. And Jason didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And again, he's a big Christian, and but we just want to do what we're doing. He just has no, and again, he's kind of the leader, makes most of the decisions, and
Right.
yeah,
Right.
Once just.
It's tough, and I understand. I completely understand his thinking. His thinking, I would say, is probably the correct way to do it, because as these bands age, and Journey right now doesn't show a lot of signs of slowing down because of what just occurred. So that works kind of in your favor if you're the tribute band, that there's excitement again in Team Journey, and then it's like, but they can't tour right now. So that's one of the reasons I did the video yesterday. I was like, well, they can't tour, but you can go see Escape. You could book your trip up to Ohio and see this band. Like you said, I stood there in awe, and I'm like, is this really happening? This guy sounds this close to Perry, and these guys play this stuff like, they wake up and they just can do it. And, for the most part, you were kind of whatever, you nervous and so forth. I'm sure there are gigs where, you might miss a note, or you miss a cue, whatever it is. But most people are forgiving when they're at a concert, they're enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
You got to be really bad for me to go, okay. These guys just aren't ready to be doing this stuff. But you guys are nowhere near that. It was just a phenomenal show.
Oh, thanks. It's just like I said, by repetition. Again, the first couple of years. It was. It's a lot of stuff when if you tell somebody, hey, you want to join the Journey tribute band? We need you to learn all these songs.
What's the hardest song that you got to play?
I will tell you the hardest riff from Neil. I'll play this. It's the intro, and again, maybe he plays it a different way or something like that. And I don't know how he came up with this one, but the intro for "The Party's Over," "Hopelessly in Love," and it took me about 2 years because I love. Before I was even in this band, it was like my favorite Journey. So I just freaking love it. But here's the riff slow, and then I'll speed it up. And it took me a couple of years to be able to play it, right. It was, so this is what I'm talking about. See, I still messed up there. Here's how this slow. Last part then. What a great riff.
Yeah, and you know what? For Journey fans who really enjoy what happened with "Don't Stop Believin'," that song is a harbinger of the way Perry would write on "Don't Stop Believin'," because again, he sandbagged that big payoff, that chorus. He kept dun 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 dun, and they kept repeating that, and the build up to that, and finally you finally hear about when the party's over toward the end of the song. So brilliant, just brilliant song.
The other part in that song is in the very middle when they're going.
Dun, 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 yeah.
Oh, that was. Oh my gosh, when we play that, it's just love. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Again,
that was kind of when I was into that. And the funny thing is, this when I was kind of like coming of age musically, and people were making this. This was the transition to the next phase of Journey. This Captured Live album and these couple of studio tracks that were on this record, and that one got into the top 40 also. It was like in the between 30 and 40, it probably stalled out. But I was like, these guys, whatever they got coming next, I knew this was going to just keep building on it. It was like Genesis too was on the radio at the time, and they had, I don't know if it was like Misunderstanding or one of their songs that were equally popular, and like you could tell both of these bands were going to just break enormously at the same time. So that always brings back great memories, and such a good, and in addition, it's such a good live album on top of it, you know?
Oh, yeah, we just started doing the first 3 songs we called the trilogy with
Yeah.
you know. So, but yeah, the other thing, next time you listen to Party's Over, and again, I don't really pay too much attention to drums because I'm always like thinking of this stuff, but listen to Steve Smith's, or is it Andy?
It's Steve, I think.
Listen to the very intro when Neil's playing that, what Steve Smith's playing on the hi-hats. Next time you listen to that song, listen for what he's playing on the drums, and oh, such a great.
It's probably Steve. I mean, Ainsley was a great drummer, but I think he left right before that. I think that's when Steve showed up. I think Steve was on.
You know what?
Steve was on Departure too, I think, wasn't he? I can't remember now.
The guys are going to laugh at me when they see this, because for me mentioning Ainsley Dunn's part of that part, because I grew up and I knew I wasn't. I love Journey, and but I wasn't like, I was more knowing every song and every album for like Van Halen,
yeah,
and the other guys in the band grew up listening to all the Journey songs. So there's still some older Journey songs that I don't, first couple albums and a couple of the ones that aren't hits that I don't really know too much about. So yeah, not sure who, but yeah, Steve Smith has got. I'm sure I know it's him playing on that whole album and that song.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I'll check. I'm gonna check that out now that you told me about it, because it's again, I lived. I like to say, people say, did you say loved? No, I lived. I lived that particular song. I lived it. I played it. I probably got the 45. I mean, then I went out and bought the LP, which was a double album from what I remember.
I had the greatest hits, and when I think it was the greatest. No, when I had that album, and I remember just playing. This was 10, 12 years ago. Just playing that in my car and just cranking it up. That's
phenomenal song. So you guys do a lot. I mean, your repertoire. How many songs are in your repertoire? Like, if you have the ability at any moment to play, how many different songs?
I think we're up to like 34.
34.
33 or 34. If you count the one Jason does just solo. Things. Good morning,
girl. You do Foolish Heart and Oh Sherry, right? Also.
Yeah. Jason does Foolish Heart, and he does that one. And actually, when he does that, he sits in the chair. He's trying to redo the video.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
so
actually really brilliant. You should. You know what? There's a suggestion from me. If you're going to add a Perry solo, and you'd like it because it's a wild guitar part, especially the solo. She's Mine would be like my add-on favorite from Street. Anything from Street Talk to me, because it's such a well it's a well choreographed album. It's West Coast rock with some really strong studio musicians, and Perry really vocally at his peak. And a lot of, I don't know what the heck was wrong with radio in '84 I think I know what it was. His Journey was like, okay, get back on the bus, Steve.
Right.
It was one of those, sorry, we'd love to keep promoting this, but come on, Frontiers is waiting for you. And that, I'm sure, affected how many songs they released and how much they hype it at radio. Reading the Ted Templeman book, at one point he says something like, yeah, we could really work the A&R side to make sure that song becomes a hit. He was talking specifically, I think, about a Doobie Brothers track, that they just work it. They work the phones, they work the stations. And it's, to me, the songs, the merit of the music should be first, ahead of just, hey, we've got a lot at stake here. Those days are kind of over now anyway, but you wonder a lot of times, how come this song was never released as a single? Or how come they released this album, but they really didn't promote it all that much? It's one of those things, it's one of those mysteries, but with Journey, obviously, Perry goes off and does a solo album, and they're all like, oh no, our brand, because that's how everybody thinks, especially a guy like Herbie Herbert's thinking, Perry said don't crack the stone. Well, he kind of went off and was his own brand for a little while, and everybody said, that's the guy from Journey, and he's doing a solo thing. And the solo album, like I say, that if that were a Journey album, track by track, that would be one of the better Journey albums.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. I never got that album either. That guy was, yeah.
It's okay. I just bought the 2006 redo of it. I mean, you'll be surprised, and I had to kind of dig in and look all this stuff up online, but CBS re-released it, and they put all of those hidden tracks that have been floating around the internet. They put it all in one place. A couple of tunes he did that are just pure like Motown, which a lot of his fans just eat it up, and remastered it, cleaned it up, liner notes. It's cool. I mean, it was worth. I spent like $13.99 on it. It was really worth the investment because you're not going to hear it. You're not going to hear it in its entirety like that. So, it's my favorite Steve Perry album. My Traces is okay. A lot of people really dig For the Love of Strange Medicine, but I'm not as enthusiastic about that record for some reason. I mean, there's good moments on it.
Oh, Jason, Paul, and Troy know that all those songs, and probably name off the songs in a row on the album. They were more of like, again, I didn't, the solo Perry song albums I never really got into, or actually even the later Journey, the ones after Raised on Radio.
Yeah.
What was the one right after that? What was the one right after that? Oh, with Girl Can't Help It.
Girl Can't Help It, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
what was
Raised on Radio?
What was the one right after that? What was the album right after that?
Trial by Fire.
Trial by Fire. Okay, we do the 1, 2 after. So okay, yeah, Raised on Radio was probably when I had heard most of those songs, but after that, I really didn't listen or hadn't listened.
Well, you were rocking out a little bit harder, man. You were hanging out with like Night Ranger and stuff like that. Isn't that more your kind of like your wheelhouse?
No, actually, dude, I really like I said, I always liked Neil's playing, yeah, it was more Dokken, Van Halen, actually the hair metal kind of guys that, and then the guys like Satriani, and I listen to that kind of stuff, and I like stuff like Deep Purple and Rainbow, Richie Blackmore kind of stuff, that.
Oh yeah, that's I get into moods where that's Richie Blackmore, Rainbow, and Deep Purple, that kind of stuff. That's pioneering stuff because of all the different things going on in those bands. A lot of that organ, a lot of those keyboards, it just drives the music and gives it a different sound to it. So let's get to you guys again. So when's your next gig? If somebody wants to go see Escape, when are you guys playing next?
Hold on 1 second.
He left the building, so I'm going to have to fill while he's going to get the schedule, I imagine. And the reason I'm doing this is because obviously I want to give these guys a little promotion here, a little publicity. So Steve's back. Welcome back.
Paul, first of all, is going to kill me.
Right.
Because here's the thing. None of these shows that are here are confirmed yet because of the COVID thing.
Yeah.
Ones in the fall, we've had some that will definitely be happening. But again, from July on, again, we have again these have not been canceled yet. Let's put it this way. The one is late. It's called Lazy Acres Campground. It's a campground, so I don't think you can do that. It's the end of June, the 27th. But I think you have to be a member there. Some of these are canceled. We have one in May. Supposedly, again, it hasn't been canceled yet. The 10th of July at Mapleside, in Brunswick, Ohio.
Okay.
Warren Amphitheater on the 11th has not been. Again, it may or may not be canceled. City of Decatur, Indiana's. I don't know if that might be canceled. I'm not sure. That's the 16th. There's one in Kentucky. Actually, here's one of our Kentucky shows. Crestview Hills Summer Concert Series. Again, it's may still have it. July 17th. Festa Italiana in Cuyahoga Falls on the 18th of July. City of Eastlake in Ohio. They have again. It's a minor league baseball team called the Captains, and they have we're gonna be playing on the field. That is the 22nd of July, and then going into August we have our big shows again. Rockin' on the River in Lorraine. That's the one where he had 10,000 like last year. And then
Nice.
Men of Rocks, that was the other real big crowd we had. That's the 25th of August. And then again, Pittsburgh is in October at Jurgle.
Yep.
And then there is one in Virginia this year.
Nice.
And, you know, that's in, although Virginia, who knows when it might be closed for a couple of years, right? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope not.
That's October 17th in Richland, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's some shows.
All right. Well, I'm just, again, my goal there was just, again, in your website, it's journeytribute.com. Is that it?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, we'll be, when we confirm the other show, we'll make an announcement. It's supposed to be soon. We're trying to firm up some of these, and but quite a few of them have already been canceled. We were set to have here.
All right, because I did the video yesterday. This morning I think I looked and I'm like, I told him this summer, and then now I just see October. So basically, you don't know. You can't put that out there until the date is confirmed, or they don't cancel, and you probably won't know for a little while.
I think July and August. Again, I think starting July there'll be some shows.
Yeah. I mean, things have kind of opened up. I went to see a gig last Saturday. It's an outdoor thing, and it wasn't a crowded area and so forth. But you know, I'm thinking that people are going to want to go see some shows after being cooped up in their houses for months on end.
Especially since outside this virus isn't, you know, when it's 80 degrees outside, it's, you know, you shouldn't, again, but I know how people are, but I'm not, I mean, I don't, again, especially outside when it's hot. So hopefully it'll all go away, right?
Yeah, that would be nice. It would be nice. I'd like to see this whole thing just be a bad memory here. All right, so we're gonna wrap things up. Any other things you want to put out there about, you know, the band? And I know you love being in this band, and you've been playing guitar. How long have you been playing guitar for? Like, how old were you when you first learned to play?
Kind of a cool story. Well, I was in 8th grade going into 9th grade. So it was like 1980, I think it was.
Yeah.
81. And I got my first guitar, and I learned the first 3 chords for Back in Black. That was the first chords I learned. And
nice.
And then I had to buy the guitar myself. Parents wouldn't buy it for me. I had to buy it myself with my own paper route money.
Good.
And here's a real quick, cool story. My mom, I mean, she would pay for my guitar lessons. Again, my mom and dad are awesome. Actually, today is their 54th wedding anniversary. So, anyway, but I had to pay for my own guitar. I had to pay for my own lessons back then. And I actually didn't even have enough. I had enough money for the guitar, but I got a little cardboard box case that it came in. It was kind of like a diagonal shape. I put the guitar in that paper, you know, in that cardboard box for 6 months before I could afford getting a $28 case at the time. You know, I paid my lessons. So I would bring this in. I'll never forget my guitar teacher at the time, which he was awesome, actually, by the other way. And I remember when I brought in my case for the first time, he was like, "Oh my God, this is great. You finally got a case. This is so great." It was awesome. But I had at least 4 or 5, maybe 6 months. I brought it in with a cardboard box.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, that was like you did it the hard way. That was not just somebody, hey, here's a guitar for your birthday and have fun with that, you know? So, I guess, you know, makes you appreciate it more.
Oh my God. Yeah. And again, I was really lucky too, because I had my first teacher was awesome. And then I quit lessons for him for a couple months because I wanted to save some money. And then for a couple, you know, some people can teach themselves, you know, and never take a lesson. I couldn't. I needed to learn from somebody. And then I remember going back to the same music store saying, okay, I want to start lessons again. And they said, you know, the teacher, Carl, who I was taking lessons from, he's all booked. I'm so bummed. They're like, well, why don't you try this? Here's our new teacher in the back. Go meet him. So I went in the back. This guy had hair out to here, and he's probably about 120 pounds, probably like Randy Rhoads, who's back in those days.
Nice.
Tony Spike Martin. And to this day, I mean, one of the best guitar players. Again, just when you go and you take lessons from somebody like that, and he's sitting there just could play all this stuff, it really inspired you.
Yeah.
You know, there's some teachers that might sit you down and have you learn out of the book, which I learned out of the book, but he also taught me rock songs too. And again, so
Right.
Yeah, since then, and I had really good teachers. So.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Steve, for coming on today with us, with me, with us,
Dude,
you and I.
and
Um,
catch up too, because it's been a few months. We're kind of doing our own thing, but no, I really
yeah.
appreciate you. The band we really appreciate all that you do. We appreciate anybody that watches this video today. We really appreciate everybody's support, because we get a lot of really awesome comments from people. It's just when we have our videos, it's really cool to see people really enjoy Journey. Again, we're playing Journey wrote such great songs. It's so much fun to play.
Yeah, I mean, keeping this music alive. There are a lot of Journey tribute bands out there, obviously. There weren't a lot of Journey tribute bands out there maybe 10, 15 years ago, but now it's real big business. It's and I've listened to the majority of them, and the ones that I didn't find on my own, people would send me links, especially when I started talking about you guys. It would all be, "Hey Dave, have you heard about so and so?" I go, "No." And I try to be nice. Send me the link and I'll listen to it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm just talking to myself quietly going, no. Jason Kelty, not to just lift him up, because the whole band is fantastic. But when people are hearing the vocals, and the vocals with Steve Perry being, he's performing Steve Perry era Journey. So, you want it, and these are big shoes to fill, obviously. And there are some other guys in other bands that I've heard, and some of them are really good. But Jason, he's got a certain quality to his voice. I think his mannerisms, he's really learned to be Steve, to kind of do a little time travel for the audience. The certain things, movements and things that just the nuances, all of those things, he really brings something special to it. And I think you guys realize that, and you got it good when you're in a band where a guy is kind of locked on like that, and whose vocals you'll sit there and you go, I just, the comments that I used to read where people were saying, I felt like I just went to see Journey, and that's the best thing anybody could ever say to you, right?
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
It's unreal, dude. We're all so incredibly blessed. And I have to say one other thing about Jason as a musician. I don't know if people probably don't know this well. He plays the drums.
Like Perry did too.
Well, he played drums in a Rush tribute band, and Jason's all about playing everything exactly like we're supposed to. Like even when we have when we were practicing in Escape, when Michael was playing something and nobody in the band would know, but Jason would be like, "Hey Mike, this one section, it's this tom and this floor tom. Here's the way it is." So Jason can play every single one of the Journey songs. He can play on drums. If you set him down, he could play like the record. He knows all the keyboard parts to every song, and he knows all the harmonies. So any of the harmonies, he could if you said, "Okay, sing all the harmonies for this song," he could do it for every single one of the Journey songs. And the other thing is, playing in the other bands with him is he plays the drums like on not Tom Sawyer, Limelight we're doing now. He plays exactly like the original recording. He's got the drum set is exactly like Neil Peart's, with every cymbal or whatever, and drum, and he plays it and he sings it at the same time too. And I've heard him sing like Dean on Mother Father too a couple times when we played it too. So yeah, no, he's incredible.
Yeah, well, if I should give him a call and say, hey, you can produce, you can play just about anything. Maybe you guys should get in the studio somewhere and try to cut a song. I mean, I know he's not into that, but like I was talking to a gentleman who's in the Fleetwood Mac tribute called Rumors of Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, they're awesome.
I call him Kaz. He's the drummer, and he said something really profound to me. It's like I had one of those sort of, a light went off in my head. He said, he's got the British accent. It's like, Dave, this isn't, we're not just trying to imitate Fleetwood Mac. We're the next generation of Fleetwood Mac. And I was like, whoa, because that puts it in a way where, again, you're not kind of like dumping on the original band saying, okay, we're taking over. You guys are bad. We're taking over. What they're doing is saying, no, for the next generation of people coming up. I mean, you guys eventually, let's just be honest, we're all going to get old and we're not going to be able to do this anymore at some point. And to keep this music alive. And he's told me, he said, you know, we're probably going to work up a couple of tracks to see if we can kind of capture the spirit of what Fleetwood Mac did.
That's really cool, dude. That is, I would love when that comes out, you let me know, because that would be.
Yeah. Well, Cause is constantly, his wheels are turning. He's not crazy. His wheels are turning, and he's a great guy. And, you know, you talk to him, he watches a lot of my videos, and, you know, he'll send me, hey, I love the Zoom format. He's really into the one when I've done the interviews, and just a real sharp guy, businessman. He's got some really great players in that group right now. He's got ringers on both Christine McVie vocals and the Stevie Nicks vocalist. She's got a little Shania Twain thing going on, but she's still, it's like they really honor these songs, and they do it. They really try, like Jason, they try to honor the record. They're trying to say, okay, if we're going to do Little Lies, we're going to have those production values. We're going to bring all that kind of glossiness of that Tango in the Night era. Or we're going to go back to Rumors. We're going to be really organic. We're going to be like that 70s vibe. So just something, I mean, I'm not trying to convince Jason. I mean, he's a smart businessman. So, you know, and we'll see. Journey's supposedly working on new tracks. And so I'm dying to hear what those sound like. There's probably room for everybody, though. You know what I'm thinking?
Yeah, and we've been approached. We have people ask us if we're going to do a live album or original songs, and can I get Jason to you know, and he's, like I said, he makes most of the decisions like that, and
yeah. Well, I'd love to follow you guys around with a soundboard and plug stuff into it. That would be my first thing I would do. I would say, okay, we're recording this thing live tonight. and if it were just for me to carry around and listen to and put it in my car or whatever, I'd be like having people like, dude, listen, wait till you hear this band play these songs live, you know, and have it all on one disc. That would be awesome.
Yeah. We have a couple. I never sent you them, but we have a couple. We recorded some. Paul's the guy you got to ask about that. So. Yeah,
Paul Seuss, the bass player, who also sounds just a tad like Greg Raleigh.
Oh yeah. And Paul does our business. He handles the booking our show. He does awesome. So yeah. No.
Paul's a good guy. Yeah, I've definitely gone back and forth between you and Paul. You're like initially my two contacts in the group, and you're both great guys and really helpful, really informative, and been supportive of my channel. Paul helped me out with banners and stuff. He did T-shirts. He did all that stuff initially. Helped me out. So I give him a lot of credit because I was kind of an unknown thing at that time. And, you know, we were, I guess, just helping each other, which is, I think, what humanity should do. But, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But any last words before we sign off, sir? Gosh. Do a Rodney impersonation, and we'll just cut.
Nothing goes right for me. The other day, I met the Surgeon General. He offered me a cigarette. I mean, my dad, I got no respect as a kid. My dad carried around a picture of the kids that came with the wallets.
There you go. And he's got a million of them. It's funny because I've been watching during this little quarantine thing, you know, Rodney, I think the whole Enterprise, they were uploading more content from some of his Carson performances. It's just...
Dude, because I heard...
I don't know how he does it.
And I can't remember them now, but there were some jokes in there that I had never heard anywhere else. Dude, that were God, I wish I remembered.
There was one from '81, I think it was. He was, I mean, you might disagree with me, but he was in his absolute wheelhouse between like the late '70s, early '80s, and that period.
Yeah,
he was just on fire. Like, you know, he just walked in a room and people just, because the facial expressions alone.
Oh yeah. Oh, you know what else too? Look up his old light beer commercials.
Light beer. Oh yeah, you know what?
Dude,
You just mentioned that. I remember him being in those commercials now.
Dude, look up the Rodney. They're awesome. There's the one where they're like, he needs one pin at the very end, and they're like, come on, who's up next? Last, Rodney. Oh no, and bowling. And he goes and he rolls the ball. And he goes right to the beginning and just stops. No ball's good. And like, oh, dude. And there's a bunch of them that I totally forgot about. They're awesome. Oh, awesome.
All right, dude. If I'm ever, obviously, if I go to Ohio, I might not be able to leave. So, someday, or if you come back to Florida, we're gonna have to.
Obviously, if we're back there, we'll see you then. And if we can get you back up here, dude, we'd love to have you back.
All right, there he is, Steve Raz, lead guitarist for the Journey tribute band Escape. Their website, journeytribute.com. They have some fashionable t-shirts as well for sale. I think this is an old vintage one. I think they have a newer design out now, from what I understand.
We printed up the shirts with all the dates on the back of them, and then everything got canceled. So we have a bunch of shirts on that we're going to be selling. They're going to be
clearance sale. Maybe
no collector's items.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to check them out, and I'm hoping some of the RMO folks go over there and patronize the website and check out those dates when you guys have it finalized, because maybe there'll be some live Journey music this summer thanks to you guys.
Thanks, dude. And you know what? If they could follow us on our Facebook, go to our I don't know what the exact, I think it's Escape the Journey Tribute, spelled like the Escape album, E5, C4, P3. But if they can find us on Facebook, whenever we play live now, we have at least 1 or 2 videos that we do live. Josh usually films it. So.
All right. So you guys are really active on Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook guy. So, but definitely check out their page on Facebook. I know I have a lot of people who are always asking me about Facebook. I just don't go on it that much, but.
Dave, I want to say this too. We've been getting hits from all over the world lately. So I don't know. I think maybe since people have been hitting your channel again. I'm not sure, but we get a lot of likes. You can see which country people are from. And it's all over the world. It's pretty neat. Yeah,
well, the YouTube thing is weird. It is weird because, like I said, I have kind of a little partner in, call it, I don't want to say partner in crime, but we've done a couple of videos now, gentlemen. Darren from Dublin, Ireland, who started watching me a couple of years ago, and then he reached out to me, and we've done a couple of videos together just talking about what you and I are doing, but we'll take a topic and we'll just tear it apart and go back and forth. But yeah, again, my friend Kaz, he's from the UK. I promote a lot of groups that are in Sweden and Norway, mostly new music stuff that nobody here in the States even knows about. I got friends in weird places, but they're not weird places, but just not what you'd expect, from a guy who grew up in Massachusetts and is now in Florida, just doing what I love to do. So it's been cool, and whatever I can do to help you guys out, just I'm going to be here for you.
Sounds good, buddy. No, we really appreciate you, man. Everybody does. So.
All right, there he goes, Steve Raz, ladies and gentlemen, and for my channel and for all the supporters and patrons here, thank you for watching. This will be a live premiere video, which again, it's the end of the video, so you're only going to know that when it goes live. But thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon.